You all know that I'm always looking for good Aroace representation, so today I'm going to be talking about Isaac's journey as an Aroace character in Heartstopper Season 3. So if you haven't finished the season yet, be warned, there are spoilers ahead. Season 3 came out on October 3rd, so if you haven't watched it yet, you might want to pause here and come back after. So in episode 1, the first big moment for Isaac happens right away. While the rest of the group comes into frame and is walking down towards the beach in their pairs, Isaac follows from behind, and he's got 3 books that he's choosing between. This kind of sets the tone for Isaac, that he doesn't quite fit into the romantic world that his friends are so immersed into, and maybe that's a big part of why he dives into so many books. I don't know, it's just a theory that I have, but it seems like the way that he's not immersed in that, it's like he's looking for an escape. Later on, Isaac and Charlie are reading on the beach under an umbrella that, amazingly enough, is the colors of the asexual flag. I love that about Heartstopper. They like to work in the pride flags in key moments, and this is a really key moment for Isaac. So Isaac says to Charlie, I don't really get the appeal when they're talking about relationships and about sex and attraction. Charlie asks Isaac if he's asexual, and Isaac nods and says, probably aromantic too. Now, when he says this, Charlie admits he doesn't know what that means. He says he'll look it up later, but when Charlie suggests that maybe it's okay that he tell the rest of the group too, because they'll accept him, Isaac says, I can't really be bothered to give a vocabulary lesson. To me, this shows that he's starting to warm up to the idea, but he's not quite ready to have to explain it. And I think he might be even a little worried that he's going to have to explain it to everybody. So that part about him not being bothered to give a vocab lesson really hit me. Sometimes it's just easier to not say anything than to have to teach everything about being aspec. It can feel like it's all or nothing at times, and take it from me as a full-time educator, sometimes I just don't want to teach off the clock, you know what I mean? For me, it can depend on quite a few different things. It can depend on my own mood and my state of mind. Do I have the energy to answer some of these questions? Are these even questions that I'm comfortable answering? And who exactly is asking these questions? How well do I know them? So yeah, the whole vocab lesson thing, yeah, I get exactly where Isaac's coming from. In episode 2, Isaac starts out feeling left out as his friends are coupled up again. After getting their test results, he reminds everyone that they were supposed to go out and eat, but everyone else has other plans with their partners. Now he knows that Nick is out of town, so when it's just him and Charlie left, Isaac says, I guess it's just you and me then. But then Charlie doesn't respond. And Isaac understands and picks up on the hint, and the two go their separate ways, Isaac clearly disappointed. I think there's something else on Isaac's mind here too, and I'll mention this later, but I think months down the road, Isaac probably reflects on this moment for a variety of reasons. Later on in this same episode, Isaac is at a movie night with Tao and Elle at Tao's house. As Tao and Elle are cuddling on the bed that the 3 of them are all sharing, Isaac tries to watch the movie, but he keeps getting distracted and a bit uncomfortable with Tao and Elle's flirting and cuddling, and a little bit of jabbing him in the process. When he asks when Charlie's going to get there, Tao says Charlie's probably with Nick, but Isaac reminds them that Nick's on holiday. Isaac implies that he feels like something's going on with Charlie, but Tao doesn't really seem that bothered by that. Between forgetting that Nick is gone and not noticing Charlie's behaviors, we see how involved Tao is in his relationship in direct contrast with how Isaac views his friendship as one of his most important relationships. He's noticing these things, and he knows these things about his friends. So Isaac leaves the movie night and he goes over to Charlie's. There he asks Charlie directly what's going on, because clearly something's been bothering him about Charlie's behavior. He also admits to Charlie that he feels like he's been left out and that he hasn't been seeing Charlie as much as he used to. It's such an important moment because it shows how much Isaac values his friendships. And he feels this distance growing between them in a lot of different directions, whether it be that Charlie is distancing himself because something's going on, or Tao with his relationship. So Isaac and Charlie have this serious talk, and Charlie promises him, it's okay, it's just that my mom's been annoying and that Nick is away and I miss him, but it's okay, I promise. And Isaac's like, you promise me nothing else is happening? Yes, I promise. So Isaac and Charlie end up watching a movie together, and you can tell just how happy Isaac is to still be involved in his friends' lives. Again, very relatable for me. Sometimes when I feel like my friends are drifting a bit, just being with them matters. It doesn't matter what we're doing. I just want to be present with my friends. So episode 3 is probably Isaac's biggest turning point. Right off the bat, Tao is showing Charlie and Isaac all these photos of Elle and all of these updates of everything that she's doing throughout her day. But Isaac just wants to be present in the moment with his friends who are there physically with him. Now in the library, Isaac and James are setting up a book display with Nick and Charlie kind of nearby. In case you forgot from season 2, James kissed Isaac on the class trip to Paris, so there is a bit of history there. When James comments that he wishes he had a boyfriend, Isaac says, please, no, I need one single friend who doesn't third wheel me. We then get a huge moment where James asks Isaac if he's aromantic. Isaac's kind of shocked by this, that James would even know that term. But James explains that he read a book with an aromantic character, and implies that he kind of saw Isaac in that character after what happened in Paris. This is such an affirming moment because Isaac realizes that he's not as invisible as he sometimes feels. It's also a nice moment because Isaac realizes that maybe every conversation won't have to be a vocab lesson after all. I still remember those times where I got caught off guard that somebody actually knew a lot more about being aspec than I expected them to. And I gotta tell you, it's a pretty nice relief. You can just talk. You don't have to explain or teach. You can just say what you're feeling and what you experience, and they get it. Or at the very least, they're willing to listen and learn with you. But you don't have to teach it. And that's a huge thing for me. But as nice as that short-lived victory was for Isaac, almost immediately after we have Nick's birthday, which is held at the zoo. And again, as they enter the zoo, everybody couples off. It's interesting, and I'm probably sure it's intentional, that every time this happens, whether it be at the beach or after getting their test results, or in this case at the zoo, Isaac is following behind, almost like he's falling behind, or maybe just that he feels like he is. There's another significant detail I noticed at the zoo, and I haven't seen anyone else talking about this, but I noticed that in the pictures that they were taking at the zoo, all the group photos anyway, Isaac's at the center. There's one where he's taking the selfie and he's right there in the middle. There's another where Charlie takes a group photo. Again, Isaac is in the middle. He actively wants to be surrounded by his friends. He wants to surround himself with his friends. Because while he's the center of these photos, they're the center of his world. And it's hard for him to see that he's not the center of theirs. So Isaac confronts Tao about this feeling of being left out and feeling like he's not as valued as Elle is to Tao. Tao fires back, completely missing the point, and asks Isaac, why didn't you pursue something with James? Isn't that kind of your fault? Tao doesn't realize that Isaac doesn't want a romantic relationship at all. He just wants to hold on to the friendships that he has. It's not about bitterness, it's about feeling like he's losing the connections that already matter the most to him. So after the fight, the group kind of tries to console Isaac. Imogen and Tara, they try to cheer him up, but eventually, it doesn't even take that long, Imogen starts talking about relationships of her own, and Tara starts talking about relationships, and it deviates all the wrong way. They do realize it pretty quickly, but again, they're doing exactly what he was talking about with Tao to him in the moment where they're supposed to be consoling him. They do eventually get things on the right track, thankfully, and they realize the mistake that they made, but it's just another example of how quickly it can feel like you're being left out. And I don't know, it was just very relatable for me, because I've sat at lunch tables in high school and not been able to really participate in the conversation when the conversation was originally supposed to be about me, because other people's relationships start being brought up as some sort of comparison, even though there's no comparison there. I've been at that lunch table, and it gets awkward, and you don't really know what to say, because the connections they're trying to make almost feel like they're just trying to talk about their relationships, which is exactly the problem that Isaac is facing. So later on, Isaac does come out in this episode, and he admits that understanding this new part of himself changes everything he thought he knew about his life, about his future, about who he was. The group does try to reassure him, but there's always going to be that. And you can say the right things, but it's that next step of showing that effort, showing that you're there for that person. That's what really makes the difference. Anyway, Isaac's coming out scene was beautiful, and I loved it, and it reaffirmed a lot of things that I've felt. It was just one of those moments where you felt seen, and I loved it for that. You know, it feels all too real when friendships start to drift unintentionally as your friends start entering relationships. It can feel isolating, and you wonder where you fit in, whether that was in high school or college when I didn't have those words to describe what I was experiencing, or even now that I do, and now that my friends even know that about me, it's still hard. And this episode really nails that struggle for Isaac. By episode 4, Tao and Isaac seem to have mended their friendship. Isaac is helping Tao make a film for Charlie, but during the filming, Isaac actually admits on camera that he's still upset with Charlie for lying to him when he asked directly, do you promise that everything's okay? This moment to me shows that Isaac genuinely wanted to be there for Charlie, and it did hurt him that Charlie didn't let him in. By now, personally, I think that Isaac's also reflected on and made the connection of why Charlie didn't want to go to eat with him after getting the test results. It wasn't that Charlie was ditching him, it was something much deeper for Charlie, and I think Isaac gets that now. You can also sense that Isaac's understanding of his relationships is still kind of evolving. He's trying to figure out what his relationships are going to look like, even if they're not going to be romantic. So that brings us to episode 5, and Isaac is starting to get some great moments of levity, like Charlie and Nick are messaging each other in the group chat on Christmas, and Isaac innocently jokes, "Stop flirting in the group chat." It's a nice little reminder that Isaac is still part of the group, even though he's kind of on a different path. It might not seem like a very big detail, but to me, it also shows that Aspec folks aren't these cold and bitter creatures. We can still have a laugh, we can still be a little sarcastic, even if it's at our own expense. It's probably not lost on the group that the person who said stop flirting in the group chat was the Aroace friend, which I'm sure doing so for Isaac probably helped him feel a little more accepted as well, and probably helped him accept himself a little more. Because as we'll see, his feelings are quite the opposite. He loves cheering on his friends and being involved in the gossip and all the details. It's likely also why he focused the camera on Sahar and Imogen kissing at the Halloween party. He wants to be in the mix, just as an observer and a bit of a commentator. So in episode 6, we get a little more lighthearted moment where Charlie's talking to Isaac and Tao about feeling awkward when he and Nick are making out. Tao says, spare us the details, because they know where this is going, and they know that it's because Charlie and Nick want to be a little more physical. But Isaac says, what? No, I want all the details. I think this backs up what I was saying even more and makes Isaac that much more of an Aroace icon and a relatable one for me at that personally. Like, for me, just because I don't want that for myself doesn't mean my friends can't talk with me about it. Granted, for me personally, I'm much more interested in the details of the friend's date than what happens after, and it seems a little bit like Isaac might be the other way around, but I do think that it's really good representation to show that he is interested in these things and he still wants to hear about them. Because Aspec folks, a lot of us still want to hear about these things, especially when it's a friend that we care about. In episode 8, there's a small but important moment where Isaac asks Charlie as Tori and Michael are walking away, so are Tori and Michael dating, or... Charlie says he isn't sure, and Isaac is left considering that there may be other types of relationships out there that he hasn't learned about yet. It leaves the door open for Isaac to keep exploring who he is and what kinds of relationships there could be for him, even if they're not romantic. That last detail is something that I'm still working on as well. I'm not sure exactly what I want. I know other relationships are out there. I know I could find a queer platonic relationship. Where I'm kind of stuck is like, how do I actually, find one? And what do I want out of it? And how do I ask someone to be in one? I still have a lot of questions that only I will be able to answer for myself and my own comfort and my own experiences. But I get that long look that Isaac gave at the end of that scene. I get wondering what else could be out there. So that does bring me to something that I found a little bit disappointing about this season. After Isaac comes out in episode 3, his involvement in the main plot starts to trail off. He helps Tao with the movie, but the focus starts to shift back mostly to the couples or to everyone else's individual journeys. But we don't really check in with Isaac. He's just kind of there. Isaac still has some funny lines and appears in group montages, but he doesn't have any one-on-one scenes with anybody, and he doesn't have any meaningful one-on-one conversations like he did with Charlie at the start of the season. In a way, it reflects how friendships can drift when everyone else is in a relationship, which hits home to a person like me. And it's like, they didn't mean to, and they said all the right things, and Tao even made an effort for a while, but eventually it sort of happened anyway. I just really hope that that last shot of Isaac leads to further stories and explorations for him. I guess we're going to have to wait until season 4 to find out. So that's my breakdown of Isaac's Aroace journey in season 3 of Heartstopper. What did you think of his story? Did you relate to any of Isaac's experiences? Let me know in the comments, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more Aro and Ace content like this. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.